The story begins with a man, severely injured, sitting on the ground, staring at his friend, Luo Wei. With a voice filled with pain and disbelief, he asks, "Weren't we brothers who fought through life and death together? Then why would you do this to me?" Luo Wei remains calm, his expression unreadable. "Do you remember when the calamity first began?" he says coldly. "When monsters emerged from strange spatial rifts, tearing the world apart. Those rifts were later called dungeons, and those who came into contact with them gained mysterious powers, which became known as classes. That was why we formed the class unit, to conquer the dungeons and push forward in glorious victory." His eyes narrow. "But that is exactly why I must eliminate you. You have become uncontrollable. Powerful class users like you can disrupt the Empire's order. And you, having surpassed even the SSS rank, are the most dangerous of all. The strongest power must remain in the hands of the royal family. Only then can the Empire remain stable." Enraged, the injured man shouts back, "So that's your excuse? Is that why you destroyed my family?" Without hesitation, Luo Wei delivers a swift strike, felling the protagonist completely. As he steps forward, he reveals the truth. "I tampered with your armor long ago. The explosion earlier also injected a compound poison into your wounds. After an SSS rank battle, you shouldn't have any strength left to resist. I've even prepared an entire army to ensure this ends here. Consider this my final show of respect for you." The protagonist's vision blurs, his mind drifting into a memory, one of him and Luo Wei laughing together on their many adventures. In that moment, a glowing window appears before his eyes. Hidden skill. Mirror World has met activation conditions. Mirror World is an SSS rank hidden ability, an ultimate skill capable of reversing everything. The scene shifts to decades later. A group of boys are bullying someone named Yun Che near a pond. One of them punches him hard, then dunks his head underwater. Gasping for breath, Yun Che mutters in frustration, "Why does it always have to be me?" Somewhere in the depths of his mind, the faint voice of the protagonist stirs, wondering, what is that sound? A boy named Xiao Ji rushes over, yelling, "Stop it already. You'll kill him." The bully sneers. "If he's going to die, then let him heal himself. After all, isn't Yun Che a chanter?" He then turned toward Xiao Ji. "You're such a hypocrite. You're the one who led us to him in the first place. If he dies, it's your fault." Xiao Ji stammers that he only did it because they threatened him, but the bully, now angrier, steps forward as if to punch him too. Before the blow lands, a strange light bursts from the pond. The bullies freeze, their faces pale. "No way. Is that a new dungeon?" one whispers. Panic erupts, and they scatter in every direction. Xiao Ji, however, doesn't run. He's worried about Yun Che, who is still bound and submerged. Without thinking, he dives toward him, trying to untie the ropes. But before he can free him, grotesque goblins emerge from the newly formed dungeon, surrounding the area. A goblin raises its weapon to strike, only for Yun Che to suddenly rise from the water, pulling Xiao Ji to safety. Yun Che casts Glacial Impact, but to Xiao Ji's horror, the spell heals the goblin instead of harming it. "What are you doing?" Xiao Ji shouts. "Why would you heal the enemy?" The goblin lunges again, and Xiao Ji quickly summons a shield spell, blocking the attack. A glowing system window appears in front of Yun Che, showing his stats. He realizes with a shock, this is not his original body. He is inside the body of someone named Yun Che, and the magic he just used was healing magic. Normally, when someone comes into contact with a dungeon, they bind with the system and are granted a random starting class that cannot be changed. From there, they grow stronger by clearing dungeons, gaining abilities tied to that class. But the protagonist, once a warrior who had reached the absolute pinnacle, was different. Back then, he had used the Mirror World skill, a power that reverses everything. That choice had trapped him within the mirrored realm for decades, until he heard Yun Che's cries. That meant he had been revived inside Yun Che's body. It was not exactly a pleasant revelation, but it was still a second chance. And for that, he silently thanked Yun Che for unknowingly giving him the opportunity to exact his revenge. Meanwhile, Xiao Ji calls out urgently, "Yun Che, the monsters are swarming us. I can handle 3 at most. You need to do something." On the other hand, Yun Che thinks to himself, "This body is far too weak. Even these low-level monsters are beyond me. At that moment, a glowing system window appears, displaying a list of the skills available to him. The protagonist scans through them and quickly realizes that most are utterly useless. A chanter? He thinks with a frown. The class is far too niche. Its strengths lie entirely in support roles, and even there, it's outclassed by other classes. No wonder it's always been looked down upon. With the protagonist's old combat instincts still intact, Yun-Che manages to hold out for a short while, but he knows he needs a solution fast. If he runs out of mana, it will be over. That's when he decides to attempt using Mirror World, the hidden skill, his only real hope. Dodging a monster's strike, Yun-Che steps forward, thinking, how exactly does this skill work? He tries activating it directly on the monster, but a notification flashes. Activation failed. Conditions not met. What conditions? He mutters internally. Is my level too low? Or does it require an actual mirror? He tries again, this time targeting the monster's reflection in a pool of water. Another notification appears. Skill failed due to insufficient level. Realization strikes him. Mirror World requires a reflective surface to activate. That explains part of it, but the level restriction is still a problem. Perhaps he can try a different target. He focuses on the monster's sword, but once again, insufficient level. Meanwhile, Xiaoji shouts, stop wasting time with your useless skills. I can't hold out much longer. Before Yun-Che can respond, a towering figure emerges from the dungeon. A level 10 overlord, Wraith Demon, with HP 1,680 and MP 100. Xiaoji's face pales. We're doomed. An elite like that requires at least level 10 to defeat. Suddenly, an army of demons pours out behind it, surrounding them. Xiaoji is in shock, but Yun-Che, desperate, tries Mirror World on a small pebble. Still insufficient level. The army charges straight at him. Yun-Che grits his teeth. Not even a rock. Is the level gap really that huge? In a last attempt, he targets Xiaoji's makeshift barrier with the skill. This time, the window reads, cannot reverse other players' skills. Then, an idea clicks. If I can't reverse someone else's skill, can I reverse my own? He quickly activates one of his own abilities, Entangling Vines. The system reacts immediately. Skill reversed, Chaotic Thorns unlocked. The transformation is instantaneous. Vines erupt from the ground. In a single strike, every surrounding monster is taken down, except the boss. The Overlord roars and lunges for Yun-Che, but before it can land a blow, another monstrous figure appears and smashes its fist into the boss, killing it instantly. Xiaoji stares, stunned. What just happened? Meanwhile, Yun-Che studies the system notifications. The reversal has completely altered the skill's effect. Instead of immobilizing enemies, it now inflicts confusion. Original skill, Entangling Vines, cost 10 MP. Vines entangle a single enemy, low chance to immobilize. Reversed enhancement, Chaotic Thorns, cost 10 MP. Thorns lash a target, low chance to inflict confusion. Confusion causes afflicted units to attack random targets. A status window appears, confirming confusion-afflicted units will attack random targets. A slow smile spreads across Yun-Che's face. A useless skill, turned powerful after reversal. His mind races. If this works on one ability, what will happen when I reverse the rest of my skills? Yun-Che muttered to himself. Mirror World truly lives up to its reputation as an SSS-Rank hidden skill. It didn't simply reverse skill effects. There was clearly an overall enhancement as well. If he had used the original, unreversed version of Entangling Vines, not only would the success rate have been low, but the restraint duration would have lasted barely a single second, never reaching the potency it now displayed. As he pondered this, another system window appeared, listing his available skills. One caught his attention, Empowered Strike, cost 20 MP, duration 30 seconds. Curious, Yun-Che activated Mirror World on it. A new, reversed skill formed instantly. Trick Blade, cost 40 MP, duration 60 seconds. A smirk spread across his face as he unsheathed his sword. Trick Blade. He quickly realized that with each skill usage, his attack power would increase by 10%. Just by activating any ability, he could trigger the effect. Its potential was extraordinary. Another notification flashed, level up. Yun-Che glanced around and realized that many monsters had been slain in the chaos of infighting, their deaths granting him a significant amount of experience. One of the surviving monsters lunged at him. He raised his weapon, blocking the strike with ease. Perfect timing, he thought, his smile widening. Leveling up had fully restored his MP. It was time to put Trick Blade to the test. He activated Chaotic Thorns, while also taking advantage of Trick Blade's attack boost. The result was devastating. Dozens of monsters fell in a single strike. By the time the dust settled, Trick Blade had already doubled his attack power. This skill, it breaks all conventions, Yun-Che thought, eyes gleaming. One of the boss monsters roared and charged at him. Yun-Che parried the incoming strike, spun behind the beast in an instant, and take it down with a single decisive blow. Xiao Ji, watching from a distance, stood frozen in shock. Is this really Yun-Che? A level 5 chanter doing that? It was almost impossible to believe that someone with such a supposedly weak class possessed this kind of strength. Meanwhile, Yun-Che calculated quickly. At his current level 6 stats, with 120 MP and 1 MP regeneration per second, he could theoretically reach 2.3x attack power through Trick Blade. With that, his strength might just be enough to handle even level 11 elite bosses, though only barely. The ground suddenly shook beneath his feet. From the shadows, another monster appeared, its sheer presence radiating danger. Chimera, level 21. As the low-level monsters tried to rush forward, the Chimera moved, taking those monsters down effortlessly with a single strike. Xiao Ji's face turned pale. A hidden boss? At this level? Before Yun-Che could answer, the Chimera lunged at him. He immediately cast Chaotic Thorns to halt its movement, but the skill failed to restrain the beast. Its massive strike hurtled toward him. At the last moment, Xiao Ji dashed in front of him, activating his barrier skill to intercept the blow. The impact was explosive, forcing Yun-Che to recall memories of his past life, of the comrade who had always shielded him in battle, taking the brunt of danger whenever Yun-Che charged headfirst into the fray. The memory vanished in an instant as reality returned. Xiao Ji's barrier shattered, and his body was sent flying into a nearby wall. Shocked by the sight of Xiao Ji being slammed into the wall, Yun-Che rushed to his side without hesitation. Kneeling down, he immediately cast his healing skill in an attempt to mend Xiao Ji's injuries. However, the faint glow of the spell quickly faded, and Yun-Che realized with frustration that it had no effect. Worse yet, the effort had drained the last of his remaining MP. TCH. Chanter healing skills really are pathetic, he thought bitterly. Looking at Xiao Ji's pale face, Yun-Che asked urgently, "Do you have any health potions?" Xiao Ji coughed and replied, "Only one emergency bottle left." "Drink it," Yun-Che ordered firmly. As Xiao Ji fumbled for the potion, a new system window appeared before Yun-Che's eyes. Only 10 seconds remaining on Trick Blade. Quickly assessing the battlefield, Yun-Che noted that most of the remaining monsters were around levels 10 or 11, but the towering Chimera boss stood at level 21. There was no question, he was still no match for the boss in his current state. However, the weaker monsters were already on the verge of death. A plan began to form in his mind, one that might just work. Turning to Xiao Ji, he said, "Hold on for just 1 minute. I'll deal with these monsters." Xiao Ji's eyes widened in disbelief. Alone? Before he could protest further, Yun-Che was already moving. In a flash, he dashed across the battlefield, taking down the low-level monsters with precise, decisive strikes. One after another, they fell before they could even react. A system window popped up, displaying his skill cooldowns and remaining MP. Yun-Che quickly calculated. He would need at least 400% attack power to have a chance against the Chimera, but Trick Blade only lasted 60 seconds. Then, another notification appeared, "Level up." Yun-Che's eyes lit up. "If I cast Chaotic Thorns 40 times within the next 50 seconds, I can stack my attack power high enough. But to do that, I'll need to reach level 10 first." From the sidelines, Xiao Ji could only watch in stunned silence. He's facing them all alone. Then, the Chimera roared and charged toward Yun-Che. At that moment, a bright glow enveloped him, level 12 achieved. His MP bar instantly refilled, and his Trick Blade effect now allowed for 510% attack power for the remaining 9 seconds. More than enough, Yun-che thought with a confident smirk. He tightened his grip on his sword, and in a single explosive dash, closed the distance to the chimera. He took down the monster with one clean strike. The boss let out a final, ear-splitting roar before collapsing. Xiao Ji's jaw dropped. You just solo cleared an entire dungeon. The moment the chimera fell, another notification appeared, level up ×3. Yun-che was now level 15, his stats and abilities significantly enhanced compared to before. A final window followed. Dungeon Lord defeated. Dungeon cleared. Xiao Ji approached him slowly, still trying to process what had just happened. Is this really you, Yun-che? How did you suddenly become so strong? Yun-che looked at him for a long moment, memories of his past life flashing before his eyes. Memories of a comrade who had stood by him until the end. Then, without answering the question directly, he asked, "What's your relationship with Xiao Bian?" Xiao Ji froze, his expression shifting to shock. How do you know my great-grandfather's nickname?" Surprised, Yun-che could hardly believe what he had just heard. Xiao Ji was actually the great-grandson of Xiao Bian. For a moment, he stood there in disbelief, his thoughts swirling. Weren't all the people I knew in my past life taken down by Luo Wei? As he tried to ask more about it, Xiao Ji, "There's no need to talk about my great-grandfather right now," he said evenly. "If you don't want to answer my question, you don't have to. I'm not here to humiliate you." Yun-che was caught off guard by the remark. Before he could respond, Xiao Ji continued, "Although I don't know why, I'm certain you've been hiding your true strength all this time, haven't you? Either way, we should head back to school. Tomorrow, the Academy is organizing a visit to the Modern History Memorial Hall." Yun-che kept his expression neutral, though his mind was alert. "I can't reveal my identity just yet. If Xiao Ji starts digging too deeply, he might grow suspicious." Out loud, he simply said, "All right, let's go." Still, inwardly, his thoughts shifted. The Modern History Memorial Hall, there will definitely be records of what happened after I died in my previous life. The scene transitioned to the following day. On the bus ride, Yun-che and Xiao Ji sat quietly side by side. Yun-che's gaze wandered out the window as he silently reflected. How times have changed. After being dead for so many years, the world is nothing like I remember. People are using products from dungeons to power carriages. New tools, new weapons, and strange devices I've never seen before. Although some of them resemble artifacts I once encountered inside dungeons. A thought crossed his mind. Wait, wasn't it supposed to be that only items dropped by monsters could be brought out of a dungeon? Opening his status window, he tapped on an entry. A flash of light appeared on his finger. A ring materialized. Chimera Ring, Epic Rank, level 14. So equipment like this, as well as skill books, can be taken out through the inventory, and they can even be bought and sold outside dungeons now. Another notification appeared. Skill acquired. Resilient physique. Passive. Permanently reduces physical damage taken. Yun-che's mind returned to the old rules he knew. Items that couldn't be stored in the inventory were supposed to vanish when the dungeon lord was defeated, disappearing along with the dungeon itself. So what on earth happened after my death for these rules to change? The scene shifted again, this time to the academy grounds. Yun-che's eyes were drawn to a towering statue in the courtyard. "That's the supreme ruler of our kingdom," Xiao Ji explained. "The emperor who ended the dungeon disasters, Luo Wei." Their teacher gathered the students and addressed them. Most of you may already know this, but over 50 years ago, this very place was the battlefield of the famous rebellion. Back then, humanity was deeply afflicted by the dungeon outbreaks, especially after the most terrifying SSS-Rank dungeon appeared. People lived in constant fear. Our king at the time, Luo Wei, personally led the royal army on an expedition to clear it. Despite suffering heavy casualties, he finally conquered that dungeon. The teacher's tone grew heavier. But at that very moment, Luo Wei faced a long-planned rebellion. The mastermind, as you all know, was none other than Yun-che, the man deeply trusted by the king, yet who ultimately became an ungrateful traitor. Hearing this, Yun-che's jaw clenched. So, this is what the story has become. Back then, my comrades and I were the ones who cleared that SSS-Rank dungeon. They were the ones who were ambushed, and now history calls me the traitor. The teacher went on. You cannot imagine the grief of being betrayed under such circumstances. Yet our king, Luo Wei, overcame that sorrow and fought with unshakable courage. With the help of the hero Ding Kuan, he successfully suppressed the rebellion. Hearing the teacher's words, Yun-che couldn't help but wonder, was there really such a person named Ding Kuan? The name didn't ring any bells from his memories of the past. Before he could dwell on it further, a familiar, unwelcome voice echoed across the courtyard. Su, along with the same group of subordinates who had bullied Xiao Ji and Yun-che before, swaggered into view. Well, Su drawled, his eyes narrowing. How did the two of you manage to survive? I heard you were both swept into that newly formed dungeon. One of his cronies chimed in mockingly. I also heard that the dungeon's already been cleared. That means there must have been a master-level expert nearby. A new dungeon doesn't get cleared that quickly otherwise. Yun-che's gaze turned cold as he looked over the group who had once humiliated him and Xiao Ji. Around them, murmurs spread through the crowd as most of the students' attention shifted toward the pair. Whispers filled the air, astonishment that they had survived the sudden dungeon eruption. Su stepped right up to Xiao Ji, a sneer on his face. You've got pretty good luck making it out alive. But let's not forget, you nearly dragged me and my friends into that dungeon that day. So, how do you plan to settle this debt? Xiao Ji's fists clenched. It was your fault, Su. You're the one who almost got both of us killed in there. Anger flared in Su's eyes. Stop spouting nonsense. You clearly have no idea about the bigger picture here. He jabbed a finger toward the large statue dominating the courtyard, a depiction of the hero Luo Wei. At the statue's base was a carved relief showing Xiao Ji's ancestors bowing before Luo Wei. That traitor Xiao, Su said, is your ancestor. And I won't stand here and let the descendant of a traitor insult me. His voice rose, loud enough for the entire courtyard to hear. You can insult me all you want, Xiao Ji, but I will never allow you to insult my ancestors. The crowd's attention sharpened, students whispering excitedly as they began connecting the names. They recognized Su immediately. He was the grandson of the revered hero's bloodline. And Xiao Ji, the descendant of the so-called traitor. Whispers turned to accusations. His ancestor was responsible for taking down so many people. If the hero hadn't stepped in back then, who knows what would have happened? Su pressed on. I don't care what you say behind my back, but how dare you insult my ancestor to my face? At that moment, a teacher stepped in, his expression stern. Xiao Ji, he said gravely, I will speak a few words of justice here, and my judgment is that you should apologize to Su. Xiao Ji froze, stunned. Apologize? For what? Su took a step closer, his grin smug. You heard him. Apologize now, or should I teach you a lesson in front of everyone? No one here is going to help a traitor. My ancestors were heroes. How could I possibly be in the wrong? The tension in the air grew thick as Su raised his fist, ready to strike. But before the blow could land, a blur of movement cut through the space between them. Yun-che stepped forward and, with precise force, kicked Su squarely in the chest, sending him staggering back. Xiao Ji stared, wide-eyed at the sudden intervention. Yun-che's voice was low but laced with fury. Does the so-called hero's family have so much free time that they can't even discipline their own children? All around the hall, the students stared in disbelief. They recognized Yun-che instantly, but something about him felt completely different. This was not the quiet, unremarkable classmate they knew. Yun-che had just dared to strike Su, the grandson of a national hero, and openly insult the hero's family. Some students whispered to each other, remembering that Yun-che had only been level 5, the weakest in their entire class. What happened to him? They wondered. How could someone like that dare to hit Su? Su slowly rose to his feet, smirking despite the blow. Yun-che, he said mockingly, you're in big trouble now. You should be grateful. I wasn't even coming after you. And yet you dared to attack me while I wasn't paying attention. At his signal, Su's subordinates rushed forward to strike Yun-che. But in the blink of an eye, Yun-che moved. His strikes were precise, brutal, and impossibly fast. In mere moments, every one of Su's men, and Su himself, were on the ground. The courtyard fell silent. The students were stunned. Su, the one they considered untouchable, had been defeated again, this time almost casually. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Did Su get weaker? One asked. How can a level 5 healer overpower him like that? Su's face twisted with rage as he scrambled to his feet. Without hesitation, he activated one of his combat skills, boosting his attack power by 25%. Flames flickered across his weapon as he summoned his fire-forged hammer. "You're dead," he snarled, dashing forward. Yun-Che met his charge head-on. His footwork was sharp, his movements confident. Before Su could swing, Yun-Che closed the distance and landed a devastating punch. Su collapsed to the ground once more. The commotion drew the attention of a nearby security officer, who rushed forward. "What's going on here?" he demanded, his eyes widening at the sight of Su sprawled on the floor. The other students were still murmuring in disbelief. Su was beaten by a level 5 healer twice. The security guard turned to the supervising teacher. "Fighting is forbidden inside the hall. What if the students damage something? Why can't you control them?" The teacher's expression hardened as he strode toward Yun-Che. "Insulting a hero wasn't enough for you? Now you've raised your hand against the hero's descendant." He drew his weapon, stepping into an attack stance. Yun-Che's gaze sharpened. In an instant, he was in motion. Steel clashed, and with a sharp crack, the teacher's weapon broke clean in two. Gasps filled the air. "Let's not talk about who's right or wrong here," Yun-Che said coldly. "You claim to be fair, teacher, but from what I've seen, you've only listened to Su's side of the story. Are you trying to favor the hero's family?" The teacher's face darkened. "Stop talking nonsense." But his eyes flicked briefly to Yun-Che's hand and froze. There was a ring there, one he didn't recognize. What kind of equipment is that? Although he hadn't used his full strength, his strike had been completely blocked. Yun-Che smiled faintly. "Just a casual remark, teacher. I don't think you're that kind of person." The teacher stepped back slightly, schooling his expression. "I will investigate this conflict thoroughly." The students buzzed with shocked whispers. Not only had Yun-Che beaten Su, but he had also blocked the teacher's attack. Inwardly, the teacher's thoughts churned. Where did he get that equipment? Does he have a powerful backing? A notification appeared in Yun-Che's vision. "Chimera ring, damaged." He sighed inwardly. Even though it's good quality, it's still just a drop from a level 21 dungeon lord. It's far too much of a stretch to use it against a level 35 teacher. Aloud, Yun-Che said, "As punishment, teacher, you should expel both Xiao Ji and me from the hall." Without waiting for a response, he turned and walked out. "Come on, Xiao Ji." Still stunned, Xiao Ji followed him out, leaving the students to murmur among themselves. How did Yun-Che become so powerful? Inside the hall, the teacher called for one of the students to heal Su. Meanwhile, walking through the academy grounds, Yun-Che's expression darkened. So no one survived after all. He glanced at Xiao Ji. "If I ask him now, he'll answer without thinking." "Xiao Ji," Yun-Che said, "my own history isn't exactly glorious. Can you tell me the details of that so-called hero, Ding Kuan?" Xiao Ji nodded. "Back then, it said the hero discovered the great villain Yun-Che's conspiracy in advance. He laid an ambush near the SSS-Rank dungeon to provide support, and that's how he resolved the entire rebellion crisis." Yun-Che's fists clenched at the words. Xiao Ji went on. "Hero Ding Kuan aspired to solve the dungeon crisis from a young age. He trained hard all his life for it. After being promoted by the king, he fought all over the country for years, saving countless places from disaster, like the famous Great Cataclysm of Winterfell City." Hearing that name, Yun-Che remembered the bitter cold and the hordes of monsters he himself had defeated in that very battle. He asked slowly, "And the sword in the hero's statue?" "That's the flowing cloud sword," Xiao Ji replied. "It's said to be the very weapon the hero used to take down the traitor Yun-Che. It's considered a top-tier artifact." A dangerous glint entered Yun-Che's eyes. "So not only did Ding Kuan steal my glory and achievements, he even took my sword. The first person I'll kill will be Ding Kuan." The scene shifts to the gates of the Ding family compound, where several hunters stand guard. Their armor gleams under the sunlight, their postures disciplined, weapons at the ready. Suddenly, a faint disturbance catches their attention. They turn sharply, scanning the perimeter. It's only two figures. One of the guards relaxes almost immediately, muttering to the others, "Just a couple of kids." On the other hand, Yun-Che studies them with sharp eyes. They're far more alert than the average guard. Is that one of them a wanderer with the scout skill? As the two move forward, Xiao Ji leans closer and whispers, "We should leave. There are too many guards here. Even if we could sneak in, the moment Ding Su returns, we're finished." Yun-Che doesn't reply right away, his thoughts turning over in his mind. Of course, I want to confront that so-called hero Ding Kuan directly, but according to Xiao Ji, Ding Kuan spends almost all his time in a high-level dungeon. Unlike in my past life, I can't enter or leave dungeons freely anymore. The high-level ones are under strict military control, and I'd need a special pass to get in. That thought sparks another idea. If Ding Kuan's family has that pass, it might be stored here. Yun Che glances sideways at Xiao Ji. Do they really need this many guards? They're just one branch of Ding Kuan's descendants. They're descendants of a hero. Xiao Ji replies, as if that explains everything. And they have a dungeon right here on their property. Yun Che raises an eyebrow. They keep a dungeon at home? Xiao Ji nods. Low-level dungeons have been bought and sold privately for a long time now. But that's not something ordinary people can even dream of. Only those with real power and influence can afford it. Ding Su has guards with him all the time, so Ding Kuan can hunt monsters and level up whenever he wants. But for students like us, the only time we can fight monsters is during the school's dungeon practicals. And even then, we have to fight for the chance. Yin Che shakes his head slightly. This era really has changed. So you're telling me that the richer and more powerful someone is, the faster and higher their level climbs. Of course, Xiao Ji says matter-of-factly. An ordinary person graduating from school is usually level 15 to 20. After that, most don't have access to dungeons, so they stay at that level for life. If someone lands a job related to dungeons, like a miner or a ranger in a national dungeon, they might reach the low 30s by middle age. The guards here, for example, can use the hero's family dungeon, so they're probably around level 30 already. To go higher, you'd have to be conscripted into the army, or get into an official organization like a major guild or a military academy through the school's assessments. Only then can you enter higher-level dungeons and keep leveling up. Yun Che listens silently, but his mind is already set. If I want to get stronger, that pass is essential. Xiao Ji urges again. Let's just go back. The level gap is too big. No matter how skilled you are, you're no match for those guards. He's right. Yin Che admits to himself. With my current strength, I'm far from ready to take down Ding Kuan, let alone the Supreme King, Luo Wei, who is surrounded by layers of protection. But then his eyes narrow. Still, scouting skills that appear around level 30 are small area skills. Eagle Eye, enhanced hearing, things like that. They can't cover the entire mansion around the clock. And this isn't a life-or-death dungeon run. The guards are complacent. That's all I need. Xiao Ji frowns. Complacent? How do you figure? Yin Che doesn't answer. Instead, he leaps upward, landing silently on a balcony. Compared to the nearly flawless dungeon defenses in my past life, this is far more relaxed. But Xiao Ji is not convinced. Even if you could get in, inside a privately owned dungeon like this, they could kill us both without consequences. Yin Che suddenly grabs Xiao Ji's shoulder and locks eyes with him. Do you want to change your life? Xiao Ji's voice is firm. Of course I do. But that's only possible if I get into a guild. And if you do get into a guild, Yin Che presses, can you really change things? You're the great-grandson of the so-called traitor Xiao En. Do you think the world will just forget that? Xiao Ji falls silent. A person's destiny can only be changed in the present, Yin Che continues. Not by betting on a what-if you're not even sure about. Inwardly, his resolve hardens. At the very least, I won't let a dungeon like this, right in front of me, slip through my fingers. Yin Che turned to Xiao Ji. You decide for yourself, whether you want to follow me or not. Xiao Ji hesitated for a moment, his brows furrowing. Then, with a deep breath, he nodded. I'll go. I don't want to let you do this alone. Then keep quiet, Yin Che instructed. Inwardly, he analyzed the situation. There are no traces of a summoning-type scouting skill in use here. That means as long as we keep our voices down and stay out of the guard's line of sight, we just need to seize the right moment. I can get us inside easily. True to his calculation, they slipped past the perimeter without incident. Xiao Ji's eyes widened in disbelief. We actually made it in. Ahead of them stood a swirling portal. A dungeon entrance, Yin Che murmured. Underground layout. Its level is slightly higher than the last one we entered. They stepped inside. Yin Che glanced around, his instincts sharp. The monster count is low, he noted. Probably because the Ding family clears them out regularly. Up ahead, only 2 small mobs roamed the tunnel. Yin Che turned to Xiao Ji. Go on. Give it a try. Xiao Ji stared at him in shock. There's no way I can win against them. Try, Yunche said simply. Reluctantly, Xiao Ji moved forward. The monsters immediately lunged at him, their claws striking against his shield. He managed to block, barely, but staggered from the impact. I can't believe I trusted you, he hissed over his shoulder. One of the monsters swung again, the blow nearly slipping past his guard, but Xiaoji twisted his body at the last second, narrowly avoiding the strike. Fight back, Yunche called out, his tone calm but firm. How am I supposed to fight back? Xiaoji shouted, frustration clear in his voice. I'm watching you, Yunche reassured him. Nothing bad will happen. Steeling himself, Xiaoji lunged forward and managed to land a clean hit. But the second monster came in from behind, forcing him to dodge again. From a short distance away, Yunche observed quietly. As I thought, his talent is good. The problem is that he's timid and panics too easily, so he only dares to defend. But his subconscious sense of spatial positioning is extremely accurate. That's why, even though it looks like he's constantly in danger, his actual health loss is minimal. Xiao Ji, however, was sweating heavily. I can't hold out much longer. In that instant, Yunche stepped forward, his blade flashing. With a single decisive strike, both monsters fell. For a brief moment, he thought of his past, of his old comrade. So, the great-grandson of my comrade has finally taken his first step. A system chime rang in the air. Xiao Ji, level up, level 7 achieved. Yunche explained. Experience is distributed based on contribution. If you don't throw the monsters off balance, even if I kill them, you won't gain much EXP. The system also displayed a new loot drop for Yunche, Resentful Blade. How do you usually allocate your attribute points? Yunche asked. Other than spirit, Xiao Ji said, I generally add them evenly. That's not ideal, Yunche replied. Shield bearers usually don't invest in agility. If I don't, Xiao Ji countered, it's hard to find a party at school. No one wants to wait for a slow-moving shield bearer. By the time I get to the monsters, they're already gone. Yunche sighed. You need to think long-term. Advanced class promotions after level 60 have attribute requirements. For example, the Bastion Fortress class requires 60 stamina and 90 defense. You can't just add points randomly. Xiaoji scoffed. The highest an ordinary person reaches in their lifetime is level 40-something. Why would I think about level 60? That's S-rank territory. Yunche stepped closer, his voice steady. From now on, you can start thinking about S-rank, and even beyond S-rank. Xiaoji blinked, taken aback. But then his expression shifted, surprise giving way to determination. Inwardly, Yunche's own thoughts were already shifting. That being said, I should also start planning my own class advancement. My support class only became viable again because of the hidden skill Mirror World. If nothing unexpected happens, I'll probably change too. A chime interrupted his thoughts. System notification, Mirror World, level 1. Defeated monster. Gained 2,000 experience points. Yunche's eyes widened slightly. So, Mirror World can level up as well.